जननी जगता विषयं कुसुमा परिहृत्य सदा चरणाम्बुरुहामृत शान्तिसुधा इव भृङ्गमनो भवरोगहरां प्रणमामि परां जननीं जगतां इव भृङ्गमनो भवरोगहरां प्रणमामि परां जननीं जगताम्।
कृपां कुरु महादेवी सुतेषु प्रणतेषु च चरणाश्रयदानेन कृपामयि नमोऽस्तु ते। लज्जापटावृते नित्यं सारदे ज्ञानदायिके पापेभ्यो नः सदा रक्ष कृपामयि नमोऽस्तु ते। रामकृष्णगतप्राणां तन्नामश्रवणप्रियां तद्भावरञ्जिताकारां प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। पवित्रं चरितं यस्या पवित्रं जीवनं तथा पवित्रता स्वरूपिण्यै तस्यै देव्यै नमो नमः।
प्रसन्ना प्रणतार्तिहन्त्री योगीन्द्रपूज्या युगधर्मपात्री देवीं प्रसन्ना प्रणतार्तिहन्त्री योगीन्द्रपूज्या युगधर्मपात्री तां शारदां भक्तिविज्ञानदात्री तां शारदां भक्तिविज्ञानदात्री दयास्वरूपं प्रणमामि नित्यं स्नेहेन बध्नासि मनः स्मदीयं दोषान् शेषान् सगुणीकरोषि आहेतुनानो दयसे सदोषा दोषान् अहेतुनानो दयसे सदोषान् स्वाङ्गे गृहीत्वा यदिदं विचित्रं प्रसीद मातः विनयेन याचे नित्यं भव स्नेहवती सुतेषु प्रेमैकबिन्दु.
ॐ द्यौ शान्तिरन्तरिक्षं शान्ति पृथिवी शान्ति ओषधयः शान्ति वनस्पतयः शान्तिः विश्वे देवा शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्ति सर्वं शान्ति शान्तिरेव शान्तिः सा मा शान्तिरेधि. It's a very important topic. Today we have in front of us the role of an ideal teacher in this modern age. Now, in Indian tradition, teacher plays a very important role in the social, individual and collective life of every person. So that's why in one of the earliest convocation addresses, perhaps that is the first human document, it's also a convocation address. It is found in the Yajurveda, where a student, after spending 12 years staying with his teacher, after finishing education, is returning home. After 12 years of education, a student is returning home to start his life as a family man, as a responsible husband, brother, playing multiple roles in the family structure, as a responsible member of society, as a responsible citizen of the country. So, a set of instructions are given in this convocation address. These 4 instructions constitute the cardinal principles of healthy life. Madrudevo bhava, Pidrudevo bhava, Acharya devo bhava, Aditi devo bhava. These are the 4 instructions. The teacher addressing not one student, maybe a group of students who have finished their education and are about to return home, he instructs, now in future, you should respect and honor your parents, your teacher, and also your guests with as much respect as you give to God Himself. It's a metaphor. The idea is one should honor one's parents and one's teacher and also the guest that visits your home. Now, you will find that there were great teachers in all traditions. Confucius, Socrates, St. Augustine, even in modern times, relatively modern times, Montessori, John Dewey, Immanuel Kant, St. Augustine. And there were also many academic educators who have formulated newer and newer ideas of education, concepts of education. Now, one basic difference between these modern ideas of education and the traditional ones is that in traditional education, the teacher was given a kind of respect, and the subject that was taught by the teacher was given a sense of sanctity and sacredness. So if you think about teachers, you should place the names of Jesus Christ, Vyasa, Buddha, Shankaracharya, and in modern times Vivekananda and others, far above educational thinkers like Montessori, John Dewey, or even Mahatma Gandhi. In modern times, they look, you can find Gandhi's name among the great educators of the world. But Gandhi himself was a humble student of Vivekananda in his own admission. By his own admission, he said, it was from Vivekananda, after reading the complete works of Vivekananda, that I studied, that I understood about my culture and tradition. And Gandhi considered Vivekananda's words as a source of inspiration. So what's the difference? Today, in modern times, we don't look upon teacher and teaching and the subjects that are being taught with a sense of sanctity and sacredness. That is the most most tragic aspect of modern education. Even in the ancient Greek tradition, you think of a great man like Socrates. He was not just a teacher or educator in modern sense. He was a great guru. In fact, that's a word guru is very important. That word, the Sanskrit word guru, has got much deeper significance and implication than the modern English word teacher. Gushabdastu andhakarasya rushabdasta nirodhakaha andhakara nirodhitvad guruhu iti abhidhiyate. So the word guru has become very prominent in modern times. They say management guru, they say football guru, they say technology guru. So the word guru is used in a very, very loose sense in modern times, unfortunately. But we should remember the word guru has got a much deeper implication. We learn subjects from teachers and from books, no doubts. The ancient Sanskrit statement is Acharyat Padamadate Padam Shishya Swamedhaya Padam Sabbrahmacharibhya Padam Kalakramenacha. It's a very interesting statement. 1/4 of the learning you get from the teacher. 1/4 of the learning you get from fellow students. You listen to the teacher with a great respect and shraddha and tradition. You ask questions and you learn. And then you should also discuss among your fellow students. And then the other 1/4 you learn through your own effort. And the 4th quarter, it comes in course of time. So, Acharya Padamadate Padam Sishyaswamedhaya Padam Sabbrahmacharibhya Padam Kalakramenacha. So, 1/4 you get from the teacher, and 1/4 you make your own effort to go deeper, to study more, to think, to contemplate on what the teacher has taught you. And then you discuss with other students. And then, in course of time, you learn more, because there is something that only maturity and growing up alone can reveal to you. This is the concept of education in ancient Vedic times. Now, what does it mean? Who is a guru? So, guru is a person who inspires you to make your own effort to study more in course of time. He kindles the light of inspiration, not only information, but inspiration in your heart by removing the darkness of ignorance, the darkness of lethargy. That's why Gu Shabdastu Andhakarasya. Gu means darkness. Ru means something that removes darkness, that is light. And Guru is a person who removes darkness by bringing light into your heart. So Guru kindles the light, the flame of knowledge in your heart. And that flame begins to light up your heart. It continues lighting up your inner chamber, your heart, your life. And in course of time, you become a wise person. So, for that, there is something very important. It is said, you can light a lamp only from another lamp. You can light a lamp only from another lamp. The wicks should come in close contact with the flame of the lamp that is burning. Otherwise, the light, the fire cannot be transmitted from one lamp to another lamp. That means a real guru is one who kindles the light of inspiration and the light of further inquiry in the heart of the student. So that's where the guru plays the role of somebody who inspires a person. And such a guru should be well versed in what he is teaching, and his lifestyle also should be in tune with what he teaches. Achinodiki shastrani acharya sthapayatyabhi swayam acharade chapi tasmat acharya uchyate. Acharya is the word used, a teacher. So the teacher is somebody who not only teaches but also lives according to his own teachings. Great teachers will give freedom to their students. I shall go back to the old convocation address. As I mentioned earlier, it comes in the Yajurveda. It is surprising that the first academic effort to give instruction to students who completed their education and to prepare them to become responsible members of the family and society is found in the ancient Vedic literature. It's a convocation address. Vedamanuchyacharya handevasena manishasti satyam vada dharmam chara satyana pravidavyam dharmana pravidavyam etc. Surprisingly, you don't find here the teacher asking the student, you believe blindly in a god or in a concept or in a particular kind of ritual. Not at all. The teacher is asking the students to follow certain universal ethical spiritual principle. Satyam. You should speak the truth and you should practice dharma, righteousness, and you should live according to these fundamental principles. And then a great teacher in this Vedic convocation address tells the student, Yani asmakam sujaritani tani sevidavyani no idarani. Yani asmakam acharyanam sujaritani shobhane saridani amna aviruddhani tani eva toya ubasyani. Shankaracharya explains this statement from the Yajurveda. What it means is, the teacher addresses the students and then tells the student, look here, you have lived with us and we have tried to give you education. You have observed our lifestyle. All the good things that you have found in us after using your own reasoning powers. If they are agreeable to you, you follow them, not other things. Now, remember, some people in modern times criticize the ancient Hindu concept of guruship was some kind of a spiritual dictatorship, a spiritual tyranny. Not at all, just the opposite of it. An ideal teacher will never ask the student to blindly follow him in everything. An ideal teacher will ask the student, you listen to us, you try to understand what we have taught, and then whatever you have found in our teachings, our ways of life, you accept and follow. You don't blindly imitate, but you imbibe them. This is the greatness of the ancient guru concept. Now, why I am mentioning this point, along with the sense of sanctity and sacredness, along with this insistence on on approaching the teacher and the subject with a sense of sacredness and sanctity, the teacher or the subjects which were taught never taught the students to blindly follow them. It was not a spiritual, it was not an educational dictatorship, it is complete freedom. Now, this is something very unique in India's spiritual tradition. I can just tell you something that happened close to our own times. In 1897, Swami Vivekananda returned to India after spending 4 years in the United States and a little time in Europe, preaching Vedanta, preaching Indian philosophy, inspiring many great European and American intellectuals and scholars. Originally he came to this country in 1893 to attend the Parliament of Religion of Chicago, which was held in 1893. After he became a celebrity because of his spiritual and oratorical powers, he was invited to different places to give lectures on Vedanta. And after preaching for almost 4 years, he returned to India and he landed in Colombo, today's Ceylon, Sri Lanka's capital, in 1897 on his way to India. Next day, he gave a lecture in the Floral Hall in Colombo. That was his first lecture after returning from the Parliament of Religion, attending the Parliament of Religion. In that lecture, he makes a very powerful statement which actually brings in the significance of Guru concept. What Swamiji said was this: if Manu returned to India today, he won't be bewildered, he won't find himself in a strange land. Now, Manu is the name of a great ancient lawgiver, a great philosopher who lived during the early Vedic age, maybe around 5000, 6000 BC. Swamiji was telling people who were assembled in the hall in 1897, Swamiji was telling, if Manu returns today to India, he would find himself in a familiar place. He will not find himself in a strange land. He won't be bewildered. The same ancient Vedic culture continuing and flourishing. Now, remember, many ancient cultures have certain problems. Frequently, they become too otherworldly, they become stagnant, they become sometimes hierarchical, they become too conservative and too orthodox. All these problems really happen to Hinduism, no doubt. But along with that, there was something else. The ancient tradition continued to exist. The unique blending of antiquity and continuity. That is a unique aspect of Hinduism. That is what Swamiji was trying to emphasize. Antiquity and continuity. Now, to understand this statement in its full significance, you just compare. Just think of the civilization of the pharaohs, the ancient Greece, the civilization that flourished during the time of Socrates or Plato, or the ancient Assyrian, Babylonian, Aztec, Mayan, Incan, Egyptian, all these civilizations. These civilizations do exist, but only in historical books and museums, historical museums. If you go to those countries, those lands, you don't find any living replica, anything that reminds you of ancient Greece or ancient Babylon or ancient Egypt. except the pyramids, the mummies, which of course are closely studied by great Western scholars, the great Egyptologists and others. But those civilizations have long ago vanished from earth. But if you go to India today, in this 21st century, in this age where all Indians are, young Indians are trying to become respectful, devoted worshippers of Bill Gates, modern Indian IT professionals who have become as utilitarian, as ultra pragmatic as many of their Western counterparts. Even in this 21st century, if you go to India, you can still find the art, the literature, the architecture, the music. I'm not talking about spiritual values. I'm talking about secular branches of learning. They still closely follow the ancient tradition. They still follow the teachings of the great ancient sages. In fact, the dance, the music, the arts, all these secular, non-religious, non-spiritual forms of learning and arts were expounded, their fundamental disciplines were taught by sages. Bharata Muni is the teacher of Bharatanatyam, which is a dance form. So there are many such examples that I find. What it means is, somehow the idea that the great men and women who taught these great sciences in ancient times are to be respected. In spite of the challenges we are facing in this 21st century, they are to be respected, they are to be honored, they are to be remembered. And their teachings are to be studied with a sense of sanctity and sacredness. This sanctity and sacredness, I was repeating again and again, that is key to education in modern times. Today, look at our own times. The teacher gets paid by the university. The student pays the tuition fees. And everything is practically a transaction. Everything is a trade. So what really happens is, of course, this we cannot help it. In modern times, we cannot run universities and colleges like ancient Gurukulas, not at all, because this is 21st century. Everything is global. But still, the old ancient concept of the sanctity and sacredness, of the concept of a teacher and the concept of learning, if we can bring back little of that, many of our problems we are confronting in academic world, we are confronting in school campuses, including the unfortunate tragic events of violence, campus violence, frequently that erupts in many places, in different parts of the world. Many of these problems perhaps could be avoided. And in ancient times, the teachers used to give instruction not only in certain skills and knowledge that helped us to live a comfortable life in this world. Information was not the only emphasis. Information is needed, but we should remember information is always fragmented. That's a modern problem. We know so many things in their most superficial sense, a little bit of many things. Frequently our ability to organize disconnected bits of information into knowledge, and again organize learning and knowledge into wisdom, their skill seems to be completely lost. Again, I am repeating, we cannot go back to ancient times. We cannot walk backward in time. But many of these great ideas that are coming from ancient times can be at least referred to, can be taught in the campuses. For example, the word is called Shraddha. Saddha is an important term. Now this Saddha means integrity, sincerity, honesty, humanism, a sense of sanctity and sacredness. All these great qualities can be put together, can be called different expressions of Saddha. Now, in ancient times, a student should have this Saddha. Saddha, it helps us to get information, and it also helps us to organize knowledge and information, and also it helps us to gain wisdom, because wisdom helps us to handle what we know. The problem with modern education is, modern education gives us information and in some cases knowledge, no doubt, but it doesn't give us the tool, the skill to handle knowledge. The ability to handle knowledge, the ability to make proper use of the fruits of science and technology for the good of humanity, and to avoid making misuse of the powers, the fruits, the blessings of science and technology, thereby bringing destruction to humanity. The ability to desist from abusing science and technology, the ability to use it properly for the good of humanity, that is called wisdom. That wisdom cannot be taught by science and technology. That's why there's an ancient verse in Shankaracharya's Viveka Chudamani. Who is a student? One important quality of an ideal student, and one important quality that every teacher should try to instill in the mind, in the hearts of a student, is the ability to accept and reject. There's an ancient verse in Shankaracharya's Viveka Chudamani. Medhavi Purusho Vidwan Uha Apoha Vijakshanaha Adhigari Atma Vidyayam Ukta Lakshana Lakshitaha. This qualification is mentioned in the context of explaining the necessary qualifications for a spiritual seeker, but it is as relevant in the context of a student studying in university who is studying science and technology. Uha Poha Vijakshana means a person should be intelligent, and then he should have the ability to discern and find out what is useful to him, then accept and practice and uphold what is useful to him, and reject and filter out what is harmful to him. So apoha means to reject, to filter out, to avoid what is harmful. In fact, that's to be one important aspect of any kind of education. And that it is not spirituality. People, in the name of separating church and state, sometimes they say, oh, these spiritual ideas, religious ideas should not be part of educational curriculum. Not at all. It is pure spirit, it is pure common sense that we are teaching students. So every kind of scientific, technological education should be accompanied by a proper system of value education that teaches the student to uphold certain humanistic values, certain ethical moral values, and reject what is harmful to him and what is harmful to others. In some of the Vedic texts, you find very insightful stories and parables, which in a way bring out this concept of Saddha, sense of sanctity. Now here, I'll just narrate one parable from Chandogya Upanishad. So there was a student, his name was Satyagama. And Satyagama was a little boy and his teacher was Gautama. So Satyagama went to his teacher. He was a little boy, so he cannot join the group of elders who were attending the Vedic school. So the teacher, but still the teacher was so compassionate and kind-hearted that he decided to teach little boy. He had many cows. The story goes like this. Gautama, the teacher, asked Satyagama, see, look here, I have got these 400 cows. They are in need of proper care. You take them to forests and you look after them, you take care of them, and if you take care of them properly, in course of time, they will be 1,000. Then you can return home. Now, Satyagama went to his teacher to study, and the teacher asked him to look after cows. You can see the paradox. But Satyagama was such a sincere little boy. He decided to follow the teacher's instruction. And he listened to the teacher's instruction with great sanctity and sacredness. So he took the 400 cows to the forest, looked after them, he bathed them, he gave them food, grass and water properly. And in course of time, they became 1,000. But you know how it happened? One day, a big bull came to him. And he felt the bull was speaking something to him. The bull was giving some instruction. Now, after the story is complete, I shall try to give the implication, the message behind the story. So the bull taught him something important, and he was very happy. After some time, one swan came to him. The swan also taught him something. After some time, fire came to him. Then another bird came to him. So in this way, you can find a swan, the fire, and fire means one day he was doing his fire sacrifice with great sanctity and sacredness and faith. Immediately he felt there was somebody was speaking from the fire altar where he was offering putting offerings to the fire. And when he returned home, after the number of the cows reached 1,000, his teacher asked him, Satyagama, you look so bright, you look so enlightened. What's the matter? Then Satyagama told the teacher, see, you taught me, you asked me to look after the cows properly, I did my best. And in course of time, the fire spoke to me, the swan spoke to me, the bird spoke to me, and the bull also spoke to me. So what really happened was, Satyagama was completely immersed in looking after the cows. For him, education was looking after the cows with great care and attention. So, when you do something, any work, with a great sense of sanctity and sacredness, what happens? Our mind evolves, our mind gets refined. Any work we do with the great Shraddha, the quality of Shraddha is referred to again and again in many of the ancient Vedic literature, literary works, classics. When the little boy worked hard to keep the promise he had given to the teacher, to follow the teacher's instruction, looking after the cows properly, that close attention, the concentration, the sense of sanctity with which he worked, that completely altered his mental system, and his mind became pure and refined, and the mind itself got enlightened. That means whatever we do, if we do with great Shraddha and sincerity and gratitude, and sacredness, then our mind begins to evolve. So, in this age of science and technology and short-term goals and then age of innovation and also consequent aberrations that we are facing, this emphasis on utilitarian, pragmatic values, we need not get away with the impression that these ancient ideas of Sattva are not practical. They are practical. Along with modern science and technology, we can also include some of these great literary classics. They are not stories about a God creating the world or anything or dictating terms, not at all. They are so universal, so ethical, so full of common sense ideas which will be helpful to everyone. Now, how a teacher has an ideal teacher help the student? As I mentioned earlier, an ideal teacher will not be just giving instruction to the student, but he will be also giving him inspiration to make his own efforts on the part of the student to study further and to go ahead his intellectual journey with his intellectual endeavor. In the spiritual context, the teacher has got a very important role. This can be understood from a story that's again from Chandogya Upanishad. In the Chandogya Upanishad, in the 6th chapter, there is a very interesting narration of a story of how an ideal teacher helps an ideal student. This can be applicable in many areas, even in our schools especially. When we teach skills, many of these stories can be taught in simple language because these stories contain certain ideas which will make us think as to what we also can do, how we can evolve into civilized, cultured human beings. It will be a blessing to our family, to our parents, to our neighbors, and also to our country. Now the story is like this. It's a story of the role of an ideal teacher, which brings out the story of the role of an ideal teacher. One man was traveling along the road that connects India's northwestern borders with Afghanistan's Kandahar. So the story is called Gandhara Purusha Drishtantaka. A great metaphysical idea is explained with the help of a parable. I am not focusing on the metaphysical idea right now, but I am focusing on the aspect of the role of a teacher who is mentioned in the story. So one person, after finishing his education, he was going back to his hometown in Gandhara Desha, which is in Afghanistan. And as he was walking along the road, it so happened, unfortunately, that he was ambushed by a group of robbers who took away all his possessions, and he was bruised, and he was dragged into a thick forest and bound to a tree with blindfold. He couldn't speak, he couldn't move. So that's what happened to a poor pilgrim who was walking alone on a road, who was ambushed by a group of robbers who dragged him into a thick forest, binding him and covering his face with a blindfold. Now, after some time, when the robbers had left the place, he began to make loud noise, began crying and weeping. I am left here in the thick forest. Please help me, come and help me. He began to shout. Another traveler was walking along the same road after some time. He heard these noises coming from inside the forest. He went there, he untied the ropes, liberated him and brought him to the main road and asked him, you take this road and you can get back to your home. Go hometown. This is the story. Now the story is further explained with a great symbology by Shankaracharya. He says, the person who is ambushed represents a student. A student who is looking for higher spiritual values. He suddenly gets lost in the world of temptations and is brought to the main road after removing his blindfold, after untying him by a compassionate teacher, and the teacher instructs the traveler on how to get back to his hometown. Now the student has to listen very carefully to the instructions of the teacher, and keeping the instructions he received from the teacher in his mind, he slowly begins his return journey and gets back to his hometown. Now, the teacher gives him some very important instructions. On the way, you may find a junction where 4 roads meet. You should know which road to take, which road to avoid. On the way, you may also find some, let us say, a flower garden or a fruit garden, for a garden full of fruit trees. You should not be tempted out of your path. You should steadily follow the road without being distracted by anything that you see on both sides of the road. With that steadiness and stability of mind, you should follow your journey. Now, you can find these very, very interesting stories in the ancient tradition. And this tradition was really it was kept alive and brought into social focus by a unique succession of teachers. So in Indian tradition you find Vyasa was the ideal teacher for all times. So you find Sadasima Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parambara. This is also another way of remembering the tradition. Vyasa was the great author, the one who edited all the 4 Vedas. So Vyasa is one way of remembering Guru Parambara. That's why today we are celebrating Guru Purnima. Guru Purnima is also called Vyasa Purnima because Vyasa is the great Guru of ancient times. Another tradition is that this tradition, Guru Parambara, Guru succession, begins with the Lord Shiva himself. And Shankaracharya came in 8th century. He interpreted and revealed the wisdom of the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita to us. And our own teacher teaches the same idea in modern age. That's why if you read Vivekananda's lectures, if you listen to Swamiji's lectures, you just read them. One thing that strikes you is, Swamiji says again and again, these ideas are not mine. And he said, if you carefully read my lectures, you will find out that I have taught nothing but the Upanishads. Upanishads constitute the highest and the most fundamental spiritual and philosophical teachings of Vedic literature. Swamiji used to repeat again and again, what I taught, what I wrote about was nothing but the teachings of the Upanishads, the Vedas. And also one of Swamiji's lectures called the Sages of India, delivered in Madras. Swamiji in that lecture, very long lecture, he brings out this tradition in graphic language. He begins with the ancient Vedic sages, Rama, Krishna and others, and then also the great sages of Vedic times. Then Buddha, and then Shankaracharya, and finally Swamiji comes to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was the one who embodied the Guru Parampara, Guru tradition, and also Vedic tradition in modern times. Swamiji became Sri Ramakrishna's greatest evangelist and exponent in modern times. So he repeated again and again, I am part of an ancient, ongoing tradition. So once you identify yourself with an ancient, eternal spiritual tradition, which constitutes a succession of great enlightened sages and philosophers and saints, you feel you are so rich and you feel you are in distinguished company. It was this ability to identify with an ancient and continuing tradition that helped Vivekananda to become the greatest champion of Vedanta in modern times. On the one hand, the way he expounded Vedanta, the way he explained Vedantic principles was entirely his own. Swamiji was the first great philosopher and saint who came from India, who expounded Vedic wisdom in modern English language. Before Vivekananda, Rajaram Mohan Roy went to England in 1830 he went to England. But what he taught was a kind of Christianized version of Hinduism or Vedanta, and Europeans did not appreciate it, and he did not make much waves in England in the early decades of 19th century. And eventually Rajaram Mohan Roy passed away in Bristol in England. He went to England in 1830 and maybe passed away in 1833. But Vivekananda in 1893 came as a saint, a philosopher, and as a link in the ancient Guru tradition. And Swamiji insisted and emphasized again and again, the way I taught may be my own contribution, but what I taught is coming from the ancient tradition, Guru Parampara. So it is this ability to identify with an ancient tradition that helps us to identify Vedantic tradition with something that is eternal, immortal, and everlasting. Because it doesn't belong to one person, it belongs to the eternal, immortal tradition. So that's why even when the teachers taught great things, the students themselves accepted those teachings with the same degree of humility and seriousness. Sudam me ma prakasihi anena adhidena ahoratran sandadhami ritam vadishyami satyam vadishyami tanma avodu tad bhaktaram avodu avadu mam avadu bhaktaram, etc. Here in this prayer comes from a student. After studying the Vedas, he prays, let whatever I have studied remain with me. Let whatever I studied protect me. And let this great Upanishadic wisdom protect me and also protect the teacher and preserve this ancient tradition. Such a tradition cannot be preserved just by giving intellectual knowledge. And knowledge, whatever the knowledge may be, becomes fruitful only when the student is ready for it. In modern times, we know, when you go to university, you should appear for some kind of examination that will test whether you are fit to enter the university or not. Before you are ready for it, before you are fully qualified to join the course, you won't be admitted to the course. In ancient times, when a spiritual seeker approached a teacher, the teacher used to give some kind of a qualification, some kind of an examination to make sure that the students are really fit for this higher course or not. Higher course in spiritual practices. So in the Prashnopanishad, there is an interesting episode. Some students, and those students included all renouncing kings, young boys, householders, who have given up all their possessions and who were interested only in spiritual knowledge, were men of renunciation, men and women of renunciation. So they all went to a great teacher. So when they told the teacher that we want to learn Upanishad, we want to learn the highest knowledge of wisdom, wisdom of God, knowledge of God, then the teacher makes one statement. Bhuya eva tapasa brahmacharyena saddhaya samvatsaram samvarsyatha. What it means is, all right, you have come to this Vedic school to study. Very good. Now, you also studied a lot of subjects. So you are qualified to some extent. But I want to test you for one more year. So, Bhuya eva saddhaya brahmacharyena tapasa. So you should practice Shraddha, purity of life, and austerity, and all these qualities you should practice for one more year. You stay in this Vedic hermitage for 1 year and continue to practice all these great austerities that you are practicing before coming here. And after 1 year, I shall try to teach you. This is the way in ancient times teachers were selecting the students. So when you select students, it's not enough just to select them on the basis of their academic or intellectual qualifications. As I mentioned, knowledge can turn us into a monster, a moron, or a scourge of humanity. If we are not taught how to handle what we learn, if we are not taught the art of properly handling, managing, making use of what we learn, then what we learn can become a curse for us and also for others. So that's why certain values were insisted upon, emphasized in ancient Vedic tradition. So an ideal teacher should be able to test the student not only intellectually but also in terms of his culture and spiritual qualities. So in modern times we can say we cannot teach the Vedas as such in the modern universities. But many of these ideas, like Shraddha for example, the sense of sanctity and sacredness should always be part of our educational approach, academic approach. It's not enough to learn and become an expert in any technical skill. That expertise can perhaps eventually lead to the destruction of humanity. It happens frequently. So, along with the expertise, with the knowledge and skills in science and technology, in the manipulation of the 5 elements of nature, we should also be taught certain values that will help us to handle properly what we learn. And those values we can get only from humanities. Science and technology cannot teach those values. Great spiritual classics, great literary classics, music, art, all these are different branches of learning that can give us an idea as to how to handle what we know and what we learn. Otherwise we become monsters. See, great literary classic with so many characters, so many events can give us a warning. Great, great music can elevate the mind to a higher level, great art. So an educational system or a teaching method that completely neglects humanities, that emphasizes only scientific and technological skills, is essentially faulty. Again, in Vedic tradition, you find a very high idea of the concept of living in harmony with nature. The mantra is the Mathura, Madhuvata Rudayade Madhuksharandi Sindhavaha Madhvina Santoshadhi. You find Madhunakta Mudoshasi Madhumat Parthivagam Rajaha Madhudyaurastinapida, etc. You find this comes in the Yajurveda. The winds, the rivers, the valleys, let them be sweet. Let there be peace to pollute air and water, to disturb the balance in harmony. The balance and harmony of nature will be eventually harmful to whole humanity, including ourselves. So some of these higher values should become part of scientific and technological education. Even if the universities and academic systems do not include these in the syllabus, an ideal teacher who should be essentially civilized, refined human being can, by his personality, can include all these great teachings in his job, as part of his job. That be a great contribution that modern teachers can make, and that would be a great blessing to the future of humanity. Thank you. Namaskar. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Rama Krishnarpanamastu.